Elias stepped to the edge, drawn. And what does it want from us? I don't know, she said, but maybe it needs something to remember us by. The hum swelled again, all around them now, pulsing through leaves, sky, soil, and then, without warning, the surface of the pool shimmered and showed a future. Them, sitting at the edge of a cabin porch, a dog resting nearby, a child's laugh echoing, the lake far behind them, visible only as a glint of silver in the distance. Leela stepped back. That's not possible. Elias took her hand. But what if it is? And the hum faded, not silence, just satisfied. For now, somewhere behind them, the lake let out a slow, sighing ripple. The hum began to fade, but its essence lingered like the soft aftertaste of a song you couldn't quite get out of your head. Elias and Leela stood in the quiet clearing, the pool's surface now still, reflecting only the deepening colors of the sky. The air had grown warmer, though not yet entirely awake. It was the kind of calm that feels fragile, like the moment just before dawn bursts into full light, when you can't be sure whether the stars are still there or if they've already gone. Elias couldn't shake the image from the pool, the future it had shown them. The house, the child's laughter, it was too real, too vivid, and yet it felt distant, like a promise made in a dream. The idea that the lake, this ancient, mysterious thing, could offer a glimpse of tomorrow unsettled him, and yet he felt a quiet certainty that it wasn't just some random vision. It had been waiting to show them, waiting for them to see. "We should go," Leela said, her voice soft but firm, "before it changes again." Elias hesitated, looking at her, studying her face as if searching for something in her eyes that he hadn't found yet. She had always been his anchor, even in their wildest moments, and now, standing here with the lake still behind them, he couldn't help but feel that the world had shifted beneath his feet. It was as if everything that had once made sense, time, distance, loss, had blurred together into something new, something fluid, and just out of reach. "Leela," he murmured, "that future, can it be ours?" She smiled faintly, her gaze distant. "I think it's already ours, Elias. It was always ours. We just had to find it." The moment was fragile, like a thread pulled taut, waiting for something to either snap or pull them forward. The lake seemed to understand the weight of it, the quiet knowledge that time was both their ally and their adversary. They started walking back, but this time there was no rush, no need to make sense of what had happened or what would come. Each step they took felt deliberate, connected to the earth in a way that made them feel timeless, like they were walking through an eternal moment that existed just between the waking world and the dream world. As they neared the edge of the trees, Elias paused. He could feel the change before he saw it, like the air had thickened, charged with an invisible energy. He turned to look back at the pool, but it was no longer there. The clearing had returned to the ordinary, the gentle sway of the trees, the faint call of a bird. The hum had faded completely, leaving only a sense of peace. "What just happened?" he asked quietly. Leela's hand found his again, squeezing it tightly. "I think the lake gave us a choice. It showed us what we could have, what we could still have." Her voice trembled slightly, but not from fear, from something deeper, a longing they both understood, but had never truly spoken of. "But it's up to us now to decide." The weight of her words hung between them, but it wasn't heavy. It was a quiet invitation, a challenge perhaps, the kind that would ask them to be more than they had been, to push past the grief of the past and step into the future, one uncertain step at a time. They continued walking, the path stretching out before them. The town was still distant, the first light of day breaking softly over the horizon. The world seemed to hold its breath, as if it too were waiting to see what they would do. Elias couldn't help but glance at Leela again, her face glowing in the soft light. She had always been the calm in the storm for him, the steady presence when everything else was chaotic. And now, as they walked together, the distance between their past and present felt less like a chasm and more like an old door ajar waiting to be opened. "What if we fail?" he asked, the question slipping out before he could stop it. Leela stopped walking, turning to face him. Her eyes were bright with an emotion he couldn't quite place, something fierce and tender all at once. "We won't fail, not this time." Her certainty wrapped around him, settling into his chest like the warmth of a familiar embrace. He believed her even though part of him wanted to question it. But as she stood there, illuminated by the first rays of the sun, he realized that it wasn't about certainty at all. It was about trust. Trust in each other, in the lake, in the future they were being offered, even if it was still hidden beneath layers of fog and mystery. They walked on hand in hand into the town that was waiting for them, but also into something far beyond it. Something that belonged to them alone. The lake, the mist, the ripples, it was all part of a story that hadn't ended yet. As they neared the edge of the forest, Elias felt a shift in the air, something intangible but undeniable. The past was still there, always would be, but the future was waiting, shimmering just ahead. And for the first time in a long time, he felt ready to step into it, ready to leave the shadows of the lake behind and embrace the daylight that was finally breaking through. "I'll follow you anywhere," he whispered, the words spilling from him before he could even think. Leela's smile was a soft promise, and she didn't need to say a word in response. They both knew that some things didn't need to be spoken out loud. And in the distance, the lake, shrouded in mist and mystery, let out one final ripple, its secrets not fully revealed, but its invitation still clear. They walked on together. As Elias and Leela made their way back into the town, the quiet world around them seemed to bend and shift, as though it too was waiting to see what they would choose. The sun had risen fully now, and the first warmth of the day kissed the earth, slowly dispersing the last remnants of fog. Every step they took felt like a quiet promise, a new beginning where once there had been only loss. The town appeared ahead, its familiar streets now bathed in the soft glow of morning light. People were starting to stir, but the world felt quieter somehow, as if the lake, the mist, and all the memories they had just walked through had lent this moment a sacred hush. "Do you feel it?" Leela asked, her voice softer now, as if she were speaking not to him, but to the world itself. "Like everything is in its place again." Elias nodded slowly, his heart full in a way it hadn't been in years. For the first time in a long while, he felt like he was walking towards something, not away from it. The weight of the past, of all the unanswered questions, didn't feel like a burden anymore. It felt like a part of the puzzle that had finally clicked into place. They reached the edge of the town, where the old stone bridge arched over a stream that fed into the lake. Elias paused, looking at the water below, calm and unchanging. He could hear the soft ripple of it moving, the sound of it like a whisper that reminded him of the night he'd spent alone, waiting for answers that never came. Now he had found them not in the lake, not in the ripples, but in the quiet moments, the choice they had made to step forward, to trust that whatever had been lost could be found again. "Are you ready?" he asked Leela, his voice steady, though there was a vulnerability in it. a shared understanding between them that this was just the beginning. Leela looked at him, and for a moment it was as if the world had slowed around them. Her eyes held everything: the love they had once shared, the pain of all the years spent apart, and now this quiet joy of rediscovery. She took his hand, her fingers warm against his. "I'm ready," she said simply, her voice full of quiet strength. "I've always been ready." And in that moment, Elias knew no matter what came next, no matter how many twists life had in store for them, their journey together would be their own, a path they would walk side by side, with the lake behind them and a future unfolding ahead. They crossed the bridge together, their steps in sync, and as they walked, the town came to life around them, people greeting them with smiles, children laughing in the distance. The simple beauty of it all felt almost too perfect to be true. Yet here they were, a man and a woman who had once lost everything, now finding everything in each other. The morning sun bathed them in golden light, and Elias felt the weight of the years slip away. He thought about the lake, about the ripples that had brought them here, and about the dreams it had shown them. The lake had held memories, yes, but it had also shown them a future, one filled with laughter, with love, with the quiet promise of a life yet to be lived. They turned a corner, and there it was, the house from the vision, small, tucked into a corner of the town, its porch welcoming with the scent of wildflowers in bloom. It was real, not a dream, not a glimpse of a future that might never come. It was theirs. Elias squeezed Leela's hand, his heart swelling with something deep and untouchable. "It's ours," he whispered. Leela nodded, her smile a soft curve that lit up her entire face. It always was. And as they stood there on the threshold of their new beginning, the ripples of the lake faded into memory. The town continued to bustle around them, but for a moment the world felt still, calm, steady, and full of possibilities. The mist that had once hung over their past was gone, and with it the uncertainty. The lake, too, had released its hold, letting them go, but not without leaving behind something precious, something they would carry with them for the rest of their days. Elias took a deep breath, and with Leela by his side, he stepped into the house, ready to build a new life from the ground up, ready to fill the rooms with the love and laughter that had once seemed so far out of reach. The door clicked softly behind them, and outside the first birds of morning took flight, soaring toward a sky that seemed brighter than it had ever been before. Together they had crossed the bridge between the past and the future, and now, at long last, they were home. The mist rolled in like a whisper that had traveled 1,000 miles to reach the edge of the lake. It crept across the glassy surface in soft swirls, the kind that made the water look like it was dreaming. Trees stood along the shoreline, their silhouettes softened by the haze, quiet sentinels guarding secrets older than the town that rested beyond the hill. Elias had returned to this place after 10 years, a span of time that felt both infinite and like a breath he'd been holding without knowing. He parked his old truck just beyond the dirt path and stepped out into the hush of early dawn. The air was cool, almost damp, and carried that delicate scent of moss and still water. Each step he took toward the lake stirred a few leaves underfoot, but otherwise it felt like even sound was sleeping. He hadn't meant to come back, not really. The town had changed like faces you once knew well, but now struggled to recognize. But the lake never forgot. As he reached the dock, worn and silvered with age, the wood creaked familiarly beneath his boots. Elias paused, looked out over the water, and let out a breath he hadn't known he was holding. The mist rippled gently as if in response. They used to come here, he and Leela, when the world was simpler and time didn't feel like a thief. Summer nights with fireflies in the trees, her laugh spilling across the lake, soft and free. He could still see her face in the hush of the morning mist, the way she'd rest her chin on his shoulder, whispering dreams into the space between them, dreams that now echoed in silence. He knelt down, trailing his fingers in the cold water, watching the ripples widen slowly. Everything about this place was soft, careful not to intrude on memories. But then something caught his eye, barely a shimmer, like a light dancing where it shouldn't be. A reflection, a trick of the mist. He leaned forward, heart ticking a little faster, a little louder. There it was again, a ripple not made by him, widening out from the far end of the lake. There were stories, of course, the kind told over hot cider and low fires, about the woman in white who wandered the lake when the mist was thickest, about the lovers who disappeared. Most brushed them off like dust on old furniture, but Elias remembered that night, 10 years ago, the night Leela vanished into the fog. No one had believed him when he said she'd gone into the water. No footprints, no signs of struggle, just her scarf caught on a branch, and the lake still and quiet. He never saw her again, until now. The shimmer grew closer, slow, deliberate, and then he heard it. A hum, so faint it felt more like memory than sound. But it was her voice. It had to be. The same lullaby she'd hum when she thought he was asleep. The same one she said came from dreams passed down by her grandmother. Elias stood up, the dog groaning under his shift. He could barely breathe. "Leela," he whispered into the mist. No answer, but the humming stopped. The lake went utterly still. Then something surfaced. Not a person. A box, small, carved, drifting slowly toward him as though the lake itself had exhaled it. He pulled it from the water, hands trembling with something between hope and dread. The lid creaked as he opened it. Inside, a folded note, still dry despite the journey. "I never left. I've been waiting. Follow the ripple." His pulse thrummed. He scanned the water, searching for meaning. The ripple, it had come from the eastern shore, near the willow tree that bowed so low it kissed the surface. He ran along the curved path that edged the lake, the morning sun beginning to rise behind him, casting long golden fingers through the trees. The mist began to thin, though it still clung stubbornly to the lake's surface, reluctant to let go. At the base of the willow, he stopped. The water there was different, dark and swirling slowly like something alive. He remembered how she used to say the lake listened, that it held memories, that it could take pain away if you let it. The humming returned louder now, not haunting but warm, like the familiar hush of a lullaby long forgotten but never truly lost. Without fully understanding why, Elias stepped into the water. Cold embraced him like an old friend. The ripples welcomed him, circling his legs as he walked forward deeper until the lake reached his chest. And then he stopped. She was there. Not as a ghost, not as some lost spirit, but real, human Leela, standing just beyond the veil of mist where the sunlight had finally broken through, framing her like something sacred. "I told you I'd wait," she said, her voice trembling as tears shone in her eyes. He wanted to run to her, but something in the stillness held him. "Where have you been?" Her smile was gentle, sad. "Between The lake doesn't just hold water, it holds time. She told him everything in pieces like a puzzle of dreams. That she'd slipped, yes, that night, but the lake had caught her, had shown her everything she'd been afraid to see. And when she'd tried to return, she'd found that time didn't move the same. A day for her had been 10 years here. She waited for a ripple strong enough, an echo of love deep enough to call her back. And now he had. The sun broke fully through the trees, and the mist began to rise like a curtain at the end of a play. They stood at the water's edge, hand in hand, unsure of what the day would bring, but certain that something had been healed, something ancient and quiet. As they walked back to the dock, the lake behind them stilled once more, calm as morning breath, a kind of calm that wraps you up in sleep, where everything is okay, even if you don't understand how. And somewhere, not far off, the ripples faded slowly, returning the lake to its dreaming. They didn't speak much as they walked. Words would have only disturbed the fragile quiet that stretched between them like silk. Instead, their fingers intertwined, Leila's grip cool and sure, grounding Elias in a reality he wasn't yet sure how to trust. The world around them felt slightly off-kilter, like stepping out of a long nap and trying to remember what time it is. Birds began their morning songs high in the canopy, notes floating through the thinning mist like curious glances. Elias kept stealing sidelong looks at her, afraid that if he looked too long she might vanish again, but each glance only deepened the truth she was here. Her hair slightly longer, her eyes a touch softer, older maybe, not changed beyond recognition, but as though time had gently folded her rather than worn her down. "I used to dream of this," he finally said, voice hushed like he was telling the lake a secret, "of waking up and finding you waiting right where I left you." Leila stopped walking and turned to him. Her eyes held the shimmer of too many yesterdays. "I used to dream of you forgetting." He shook his head slow. "I tried. I really did. But some people don't disappear, no matter how far they go." She smiled at that, but it was a tired smile, one that hinted at the weight of in-between places. "The lake is strange," she said almost to herself. "It kept me company, showed me things, but it never gave me answers, just pieces, fragments." "What kind of pieces?" She looked toward the trees, their edges now sharper in the growing light. "Faces, some I knew, some I didn't. I think it shows you what you hold inside, what you've lost, what you long for. Some people saw their pasts, others their regrets. I saw you, always you." They walked again, slow and steady. The dock came into view, half hidden behind reeds that trembled in a breeze too gentle to be felt. The lake behind them returned to stillness, but Elias could feel it watching, patient, like it hadn't finished its part in the story. As they reached the dock, Leila paused, looking down at her reflection. The surface rippled once, briefly, without calls. "I don't know how long I have," she said quietly. His heart clenched. "What do you mean?" "I don't think I was meant to come back, not fully. The lake let me, but I can feel it. It's like I'm walking in a dream that's trying to end." "No." His voice was sharp, louder than the morning deserved. "I won't let it. You're here. You're real. We can fix this." She touched his cheek gently. "You always tried to fix things." There was that hum again, softer now, fainter, the same melody threading the air like the lingering warmth of a candle flame. But it was coming from deeper in the woods now, not the lake, faint and beckoning. Elias turned his head slowly toward the sound. Do you hear that? Leela nodded. It's not just the lake. Something else is waking. The hum changed, just slightly, still familiar, but threaded with new notes. It wasn't a lullaby anymore. It was a call, an invitation. We have to follow it, she said, and this time it was her who led him. They stepped off the dock and into the woods, their steps careful over moss and roots. The trees closed in around them, but not in a threatening way. It felt more like a cathedral made of bark and breeze. The hum grew louder with each step, vibrating in their chests like a heartbeat. I used to think the lake was the end, Leela whispered, but what if it was only the beginning? The path curved gently, rising and falling like breath. Ahead, something shimmered like light caught in morning dew, or a memory waiting to be remembered. As they approached, Elias could see it wasn't a person or a structure. It was a pool, small, hidden, surrounded by stone and wildflowers. The water inside glowed faintly, not with color, but with memory. Images flickered beneath the surface: his childhood, his mother's hands, the old bookstore downtown, laughter, storms, nights spent wondering, years filled with silence, all tangled together. I think this is where the lake sends things, Leela murmured, things it doesn't want to forget.